Will be confined to their homes for the next 3 weeks, but you will still be able to buy petrol. Workers in the fuel industry have been deemed an essential service. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by Reggie Sibiya from the Fuel Retailers Association. Good morning, Mr. Sibiya. Thank you very much for joining us. Could you tell us what are the plans to make sure we have an adequate supply of fuel during the lockdown?
Well, there are various plans. As you know, this is quite an urgent and a very short notice. So there's been quite a lot of interaction between various stakeholders. I have to though state that up front there are still also major challenges that needs to be resolved. And I think that is very important just to bring it into context. The first issue is we rely on other value chain, the stakeholders like distributors and storage to have the product available. So we as fuel retailers, we're still not sure what plans are actually being made at that level. So that is one area that creates a bit of anxiety on our side as fuel retailers. But from our side, we actually welcome the announcement by the president that service stations should actually be operational, because we also agree that fuel supply is critical into the sustainability of essential services and also the health services.
Absolutely.
But yes. But I do want to highlight one thing, is that, nobody thinks about the fact that service stations are small businesses. Nobody thinks about the fact that the service station's margins are very low, and to sustain a service station business, you actually need high volumes of petrol. Now, the major implication of the 21 days lockdown is that there won't be enough people visiting service stations. We actually predicting that most of the service stations will actually be losing 50%, if not more, on volumes. So that automatically says not all service stations will actually be sustained during the 21 days. That is a reality. That is something that is beyond the control of small businesses.
You make such a good point about the small businesses that many petrol stations are, and it's certainly a great area of concern. As you say, they operate on such small margins, and many South Africans simply won't be moving around, taxis won't be moving around. You've mentioned some anxiety around the value chain, which I presume refers to the fact that we import our crude oil. It then goes to, I think, one of 6 refineries here in South Africa, and then is moved around the country and eventually ends up at a petrol station where I can buy my petrol. What aspects of that value chain are you most concerned about? Is it the fact that we're in the global environment around coronavirus is creating problems? Is it at the refinery point? Is it at the distribution point?
It's more about the 21 days, lockdown. What we know at this stage is that only the petrol service stations were actually announced as operating. So we are saying that for petrol service stations to actually operate, they actually need the supply of products from the other players. That's the point we're making. The other issues have already been in play, and I think all companies have already put in measures in terms of those issues around COVID-19 from refinery to distribution. That's what the 21 days. So we do not know how many workers will be available now. Know, for example, that there's still an issue of the work permits. For example, in our environment, we've got over 80,000 employees, all right? So the issue of work permits, we're still not clear how these 80,000 are going to get the work permits. Are they then going to be allowed to leave? their places, what the impact will be.
80,000 employees in the fuel retailers.
Just the fuel retailers environment.
That is a lot
over
of people.
80,000. It's a lot of people.
Can you tell us, are consumers panic buying fuel at this point? And secondly, is there any possibility of fuel rationing?
Okay. So, but let me answer that question this way. First of all, I am making a proposal here. I am a leader in the industry. I interact with other leaders in the industry. We have to take drastic action plans. Tough times call for drastic action plans. We have seen big businesses taking those drastic plans, which is very encouraging. In our sector, we are saying we've got big businesses. Those big businesses are oil companies. We want to see the oil companies holding the small businesses by hand. And the proposal that FRA is making is that for the 21 days, take into account that there will be very low volume. For the 21 days, all companies can be able to give small businesses a cool-off period in terms of payments. So we are proposing that all companies must give 21 days credit terms so that every service station won't be overburdened, so that every service station can operate. The President wants every service station to operate. FRA wants every service station to operate. Motorists would like every service station in their areas to operate. And all it takes is for the big companies, the oil companies, just for 21 days. And because also the issue is, if let's say 50% of service stations close down, because some of them will just have to shut down. There are small volume sites, especially in townships and rural areas, that can't even survive 7 days, of low volume. If you drop below 60%, is really a catastrophic, and is no comeback situation. So we're saying if we can have that as the players together, all companies, then I can then answer your question very comfortably of saying then motorists should not really panic. But be as it may as well, even if there is no support that we're actually asking for, which would be very unfortunate, is that there will be some service stations operating at some point in time.
I can really hear the concern, and thank you for sharing that with us. And just drilling down into some of the really important issues. That's Reggie Sibiya. Thank you so much for your time from the Fuel Retailers Association. A plea there from fuel retailers, well, mostly small businesses, to be supported and given some grace by the big oil companies during this lockdown period.